Hey everybody, welcome to the Who Let the Dogs Out podcast. I'm your host, Austin. Sarah's coming back.
It'll be fine. There we go. I pulled her blanket over her crate for her, so we should be okay.
Yeah, that works. I've done that many times. What kind of dog do you have?
I have a 8-month-old Pomeranian, and then I have a Bear Dog Collie Cross. So they're one is 8 or 9, and the other one's super young. So they're a little mixed. Anyways.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm actually from Eastern Canada. Well, I'm from Eastern Canada, but I was raised in the Bahamas. So my parents are both from mom's from Newfoundland, and my dad's from Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
In Canada. So, and then I was raised in the Bahamas, so I lived there most of my life. Yeah.
So is your husband's Polish? Is his family Catholic? Because that's a huge Catholic country.
Yeah. Yes.
The only reason I even know that is because I'm a huge I have a huge devotion to St. John Paul II, who's from Poland, and so I know all about his story and a whole bunch of other people from there because I've read a lot of his stuff. So that's always cool. So you've been out gardening today. I was I was watching your little videos, and you brought in was the dirt brought in yesterday or was that this morning?
Yes, I got it yesterday, and my husband just told me to pull up, and it was me $15. And then when I pulled in, the guy was basically like, "It's $50." So I was like, you know what? I was already on a call with one of my coaches, and I was like, I'll just take it. But it was really funny because he's like, "Well, I don't want to out you." And I was like, "Well, this is weird. Do you want my money?" He's like, "Yeah,
Right.
just go pick it up." But I mean, with COVID right now, they're really funny. So like, do not get out of the vehicle. Like they do not want you getting out of the vehicle. So it's kind of a weird situation.
Yeah.
So I had to drive to a area to get out and lift the tunnel cover and do everything. But we got it yesterday. So I was trying to unload it in the back, and it's probably one of the hardest days we've had so far. So
have you ever gardened, or is this your first time building all that stuff and planting?
Oh, I am not a gardener. This is going to be our first go for sure. So we'll see. No, absolutely not. We've done house plants that we've kind of kept alive, so we'll see how we do.
I'm really excited to see how this whole thing goes.
Me too. I'm really, really excited about it. Is that actually, you know what's funny is that I have had quite a few people reaching out to me because I'm planting a lot of vegetables.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of people reaching out to me being like, "Can you even eat those?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can actually," which I find kind of fun. So
tell me about your before we start, tell me about your superfood shake that you were having this morning. What's in that? What is it?
Yeah. So I'm a full-time Beachbody coach. So I use Shakeology, which is something I was exceptionally skeptical about because, I mean, especially because I had started doing this after having a pretty big flare as well. And what it is, it has 75 vitamins and minerals in it. It has pre and postbiotics. Have you heard of it before?
No. I've heard of Shakeology, but I don't. So you're probably the same way. The only reason I'm even opening my ears to you is because we're alike. But like when I was diagnosed, when I was young, I was bombarded years and years in a row from people with the solution to my health problems by taking this or taking that or trying this or this diet. And I just got to the point where I threw my hands up and was like, I'm not doing any more. I'm done.
Yep.
Those things, yes, they may be good, but any hyper focus in any one area jacks my system up, and I'm not doing it. So it's not the sacrifice of the month of trying your little thing. So knowing you've been through all of that, I'm more open ears. I want to know a little bit about what all you're into from your website, your coaching, all of that kind of stuff. So just I really kind of, since you read a little bit of my story, I kind of just want to know a little bit about you and what all you're into in regards to like what you're working on business wise and things like that right now. Yep. Just as a background for me for the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me right now, I am a full-time stay-at-home Beachbody coach.
Okay.
So that is essentially a Beachbody coach is someone that's able to help other people get started with fitness programs, nutrition programs. We have over 1,200 workouts people can use to stream from home while traveling. Every single program comes with a nutrition plan, which is amazing. And so I'm someone that was a personal trainer for a very long time. I was a gym manager for years. And something that I felt made me feel awful. And also when I struggled with my flares and not knowing I was sick and had Crohn's disease was I would teach or I would go to a session and I'd have to leave in the middle of a session and tell my client, okay, you finish your reps and I'll come back. Or, you know, sometimes I couldn't be there and they'd show up and someone else would have to train them or so on and so forth. And I've now been in remission, complete remission for the past 2 years, essentially since I started coaching.
Yeah.
So I was on and off in remission on and off for 5 years prior to that, but I would have a really, really big flare and get sick. And I didn't know until I was 23 what was going on with me, right? So for me right now, what I'm trying to do is build a platform where I can help other women and men be able to feel empowered that they're not stuck. Yeah. Because I was someone that, and I say it I always say it to my people all the time. I always say that, you know, I wish I had someone on social media when I found out I was diagnosed that was as positive as I am, because I was searching for that person. And still to this day, like I can think of a handful of people off the top of my head, like you as yourself, and there's Dana, and then there's Raina. There's a bunch of people, Dana and Raina, a bunch of girls that I love through social media. But the majority of the time when you search Crohn's disease or you search irritable bowel disease or invisible illness, it's either funny memes making fun of going to the bathroom or pain or no one understands my struggle, instead of being like powerful, uplifting, and allowing people to feel like there is hope. The same way that I've shown people you can put muscle on, because that's something I struggled with as a personal trainer. I lost 35 pounds of muscle in a period of 30 days. Yeah. Like that's a pound of muscle a day. And they had no idea what was wrong with me, going back and forth. And they tell me things like, no, you're fine, you're healthy, you're a trainer, like just go home, you have like IBS, you're fine. And I'm like, I am dying, like I am losing all my muscle. So I get a lot of clients now that are girls just messaging me going, I just found out I have Crohn's disease, you're the most positive person I found on social media that hardly even talks about it. And I feel like the reason I talk about it, but I don't flare as much anymore. So now I just talk about it in doses, but more so show people that you can live one drug-free, because I've been off drugs now for just over a year and a half, and completely got off everything by going plant-based, which is very much unheard of for a lot of people with irritable bowel disease or Crohn's disease, because they fear vegetables. I used to fear vegetables for a really long time, right? So I help people move plant-based or try plant-based, because what we actually use is, it's an amazing system. So it's nutrition based, where it's like food lists. So instead of counting macronutrients, proteins, carbs, and fats, which is what I used to do, which is very complicated, because I'd have clients come to me and say, Sarah, I've eaten salad all day, but it says that my carbs are 80%. And I'm like, well, it's because vegetables have carbs in them. But people think carbs are just pastas and potatoes and things like that. So I've allowed people to be educated by, this is a vegetable list, this is a fruit list, this is a healthy fat list, this is, you know, your protein list. And it's broken up in carbohydrates if you're eating vegan, which is what I ended up doing, which is crazy. I mean, I still love pizza, so I eat pizza all the time. But I mean, in doses, like 80-20 rule, I mean, I do it for my health, not because I'm very like hardcore about it, but it shows you that when you're splitting your carbohydrates, it's between grains and starchy carbs. So it just helps people, especially with irritable bowel disease and Crohn's, because we have a food list where it's like, I know that's a trigger food, I'll just cross it off the list, I'm not gonna eat that. So it made it so easy for me to make the plant-based transition, because I'm like, hey, I can have spinach, but I can't have lettuce. And I knew those things. So, and now I can actually eat lettuce, no problem. It's just so funny, because like your body, I mean, also, I'm sure you're aware of this, we could eat one thing for our whole lives, and then 1 second you have it, and then you're bent out of shape for a couple weeks. So it's kind of funny, but I'd say that's basically what I do now, is I help people find comfort in not being scared of food, show people they can put muscle back on and get in remission and have fun doing it. It's kind of like a nutshell, I guess I could say.
Where'd you come up with your glow up stuff? I like that.
Yeah, so we actually used to be Fit and Fearless, And I liked it, but I really didn't like that I had the word fit. I've actually reached out to a girl on Instagram that has my name, Sarah Zielinski, and I offered to pay her for her Instagram name because I don't like that I have the word fit on the end of my actual Instagram handle, because I feel like it makes people feel like to work with me as a coach, because I take coaches and help them open their own businesses as well, or to work with me in any capacity, you have to have the mindset of getting fit. So I'm not a big fan of that. But I came up with Glow Up and changed it from Fit and Fearless. So I wanted to remove the word fit out of my team name. And I wanted it to be all about you glowing up, literally becoming your best self. Yeah. And the glow up is so true, because when you think about it as someone that has irritable bowel disease, it's like when you're not at your best state, you're quite literally in the dark. Yeah. In every situation, right? Like you lose the color in your skin too, and you just feel like you're in a dark place. So the whole glow up really is glowing up into yourself, and the whole transition to becoming your best self, stepping into the light, your own power, all of that.
Yeah, man. That's cool. So tell me, you didn't finish up because we started having glitches, but tell me about your superfood shake. What were you talking about? You were starting on that, but finish what you were saying.
Yeah, so it's Shakeology, and just to put it out there first, when I first was introduced to it, my first instinct was, I don't want your stupid shakes, because I actually started as a client before I started as a coach. I didn't know you could be a coach. My girlfriend asked me to do a program with her, and I really wanted to do it, but I didn't want any of the shakes. I didn't want anything, because what actually happens is we can get people started with them as a fitness bundle, and it's so discounted when you first start. It's basically the same price as just getting the workouts and nutrition plan. So it's great because the company gives you the option to try it really discounted when you first start. Yeah. So for me, I was like, I love a deal, but I don't want your shakes. I think they're expensive. I think that it's going to make me sick. I use the excuse of, I have Crohn's disease. Don't give me your stuff because you're going to make me sick and put me in the hospital. You don't know me. Like, that was my attitude. And then when I started coaching, I started noticing that other people were using it and they were feeling better. Their digestion was getting better. They were able to go to the bathroom regularly. They had more energy. When I researched it, what I realized was that it's not meant to be a meal replacement, which is what I liked, because I'm the kind of person that believes in eating whole foods and real food. And I don't always drink it as a shake. Sometimes I put it in food, or I make waffles or pancakes or desserts, or I make little mug cakes, which are delicious in the microwave, things like that. But it has a 75 vitamins and minerals, pre and postbiotics. It helps free your body of free radicals. I don't have to take any multivitamins anymore. And it has a bunch of different superfoods like ashwagandha and chia and things that I normally can't have by itself. Like chia, hit or miss for a lot of people because of the little seeds, right? So I'm able to get all those superfoods that I can't normally eat on a regular basis. And I also eat the vegan one, which is pea protein versus whey. So I love it. And I personally feel like if I had that when I first had my big flare up, where I was basically told to just drink Ensure out of the, the Ensure and the pure proteins or whatever they are off the shelf there, and their chocolate flavors, I was living off those for months. Like, my husband and I would drive around with my boyfriend at the time, and they're gross. But they helped me. I was drinking the ones with the extra protein for weight gain and everything. And now I use this, but I don't just drink it like with water or just with milk. Like, I mix it with fruits and vegetables and coconut oil, and I add things to it to make it a full meal, but it's not meant to be a meal replacement. Yeah. And what I found was, when I started using it, I had more energy. I wasn't craving like basic carbohydrates, because I personally find I get a lot of energy from potatoes and from breads and from things like that. So when I started having this, I found I was getting a new source of energy. Like, I didn't need to go to something that I felt was like a safe plain food I used to go to before. And it just completely changed my entire life. And now I literally can't go a day without it. And with COVID right now, things being delayed, I'm still waiting for a new bag to come in. And I'm just like ready to go knock on someone's door and start buying it from them if I don't have it. But it's amazing. I really, really love it. Pretty much, I'd say 85% of my clients that do have irritable bowel disease use that, or they use my pre-workout, because my pre-workout's plant-based, which is pretty cool too. Because I used to use, as an athlete, I used to use C4, I think was the brand. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say a brand on here. If I am, please.
No, you're fine.
Bleep that out.
I don't care.
But,
I'm not promoting anybody. I'm just trying to help people.
Yeah. So I used to use that and I loved it, but I used to get sick. It would hit, as soon as it hit my stomach, I was in the bathroom. And then I was like, okay, waiting for the bathroom to break off so I could go work out. And I was in and out of the bathroom when I'd be working out. But with this, it's all natural. So we actually they actually reached out to us and they said, can you guys give us some flavors of the pre-workout you'd like to have? And I said, I'd love to have the blue raspberry because I love blue raspberry from C4. And they said, Sarah, blue raspberry is not a real flavor, so we're not going to do that because we do real flavors only, right? So I was like, that would make sense. Blue raspberry is an artificial flavor, so that's why it probably was also really bad. And colors can be hard on our stomachs as well, right? So there's actually the supplement they use in it is called quercetin, which is a natural ingredient, and it makes the pre-workout yellow naturally from the plant. So there's no colors or sweeteners or anything added into it, and it's the only pre-workout I can take now. So that's basically my split. I'd say 80, probably almost 90% of my clients mostly all use the Shakeology. And then my irritable bowel patients are kind of weary about it, but when they do use it, they're okay. And we also have a 30-day money back guarantee. So if anyone doesn't like something, they just send it back.
Dude, so tell me, you have to have people who are using your same excuses, right? When you're working with somebody, so now you start hearing them, you don't know me. I got Crohn's disease. Stop talking to me like you know my ulcerative colitis.
Yeah. Oh, it's true. But everyone's so different. Everyone is so different. Like but you know what my favorite thing is I love when someone messages me and says, I just found out I have Crohn's, or I just found out I have IBD, or I just found out I have Lyme, or I just found out anything. Fibromyalgia. I have a lot of clients with fibromyalgia. And I say, congratulations. This is the best day of your life because now we can start working towards a solution. Everyone's like, why did you just thank me and congratulate me for finding out? And I'm like, do you know how amazing that is? Like, it took me years to figure out what's wrong with me. And I'm like, this is great. Now we have something to work with. And my first question is, what severity are you? Are you severe? Are you moderate severe? Are you moderate? Are you mild? Do you have blood in your stool? Are you still bleeding? Like that is like my next question. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, like she's just no problem talking about this. And I don't. That's my first question. My first 3 questions are those ones pretty much. And just get it out of the way immediately and help them feel comfortable and then let them talk to me about it.
Dude, the hardest part for you and I is that when I wasted 5 or 10 years getting to the point where I could say, this has actually been really good for me. Now let me start trying to figure out how to deal with it and get on down the road. Whereas when I'm working with anybody, talking with anybody newly diagnosed, it's the same thing. It's this is actually something really good. Now let's start figuring out how to manage our life going forward. So that's really cool, actually.
Absolutely.
Dude.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thank you everybody for joining us. This is the Awesome Guy podcast. We are here today with Sarah Zielinski. She is a Beachbody coach. Is that right?
Yes.
And she is very active in her social media in regards to promoting awareness for Crohn's disease and IBD and fitness and healthy eating, healthy living, and learning to manage your life, living with some of these issues and living it happily. And so I'm really excited today to kind of sit down and get to hear a little bit of your story, Sarah. Thank you for joining us. This is awesome.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
Dude, so, and I say dude a lot, but that's just, now my girls say it. So I got a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old, and the 7 and 5-year-old are always saying dude. And I'm like, that sounds so bad. So now I'm starting to hear myself say it. So just deal with it, okay?
I will.
Okay, so walk through just a normal day. Like, I know what today was like, but tell us like just a normal day in your life from sun up to sundown, and then we'll kind of dial back a little bit and learn a little bit about your story. But I want to know kind of where you're at today and what a normal day is for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, obviously things are a little different with everything happening with COVID, but a typical day for me is I'm getting up in the morning with my husband. We try to get our workout in first thing in the morning, go take the dogs for a walk or a run. And then I like to have my pre-workout like first thing. It's actually known as being like a rise and energize, where we get up, we take it. As soon as you take it, it's like, hey, I'm moving, I'm grooving, like I'm doing my thing, get my workout in. And then what I like to do as well, I do my gratitude. That is probably my favorite thing in the world. I'll sit down and I'll write out 10 things that I'm grateful for. Always something to do with my health and personal with my family, and then something to do with my business and something to do with my future. So things that I'm looking forward to set my intention right for the day. Because then
how important is that awareness? How important is that awareness? You're writing the things you're thankful for down, but that keeps all those things top of mind throughout the day. So how important is that as you kind of stomp through difficult days and good days?
Honestly, it's the one thing that keeps me moving forward. If that's the best way for me to put it through, is that whenever you have a hard day, or whenever, if I have a flare, for example, or if I have a bad day where I have someone struggling with their workouts or struggling with their nutrition, and I'm trying to help them out, it's the one thing that reminds me that if I can help one person today feel better about themselves, I'm living my purpose, right? And regardless of how I'm feeling, if I can show up for other people, then at the end of the day, I'm doing something that's filling my own cup. And I think that that's important, because you can't help anyone else unless you're helping yourself first, because you're pouring from an empty cup.
Yeah. Sorry to digress. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. And then usually what I'll do is I actually have a planner that I fill out where I kind of look back at my goals from last week and what I plan on doing for the day. Check in on my clients in the morning, see how they're doing. I put a motivational post in every single day so that when people wake up, they see what's happening today. If it's like, how are you respecting your body today? How are you feeling your body with proper nutrition? Maybe it's a fitness joke or a challenge to get people started, because that's the hardest part. Is I do a lot of workouts at home and online. A lot of people think I can't work out from home. I have to go to a gym, or I have to go see somebody to physically hold me accountable. But when you have an online community of people like waiting for you to log your workout virtually, or to check in on a post in the morning to set your intention for the day, it's almost like that extra push of accountability.
Yeah.
So I set that tone for my entire clientele and all my coaches in the morning, so that they know what they should be focused on throughout the entire day. And typically it kind of just goes up and down. I like to sit down every morning at 9 a.m. with my coaches. We do a big live Zoom and we work together. We call it like a hustle hour, virtual hustle hour. So I work with people from Canada, the USA, the UK, and France. So we all can just jump on together, work out together. We can jump on together and just work quietly, listen to some music. We like to make playlists and share them with each other, which is really fun. And then other than that, like, honestly, I do a lot of content creation. I show up in my stories. I share everything to the point where my husband's like, you need to like relax. Like, people don't need to know every single second of what's happening in your day. But for me, I enjoy it. I love it. I love showing people if I accidentally broke a glass or something crazy happened, or if my husband comes home, he's got his shirt up, like to show him off all the time. I say that a lot. I say, I know that 90% of you guys are here to see him with his shirt up, but want to hear what I did today, I will tell you. So I just try and show up as much as I possibly can. And then the rest of the time I spend talking to people. And that's the most fun part, is I get to talk to my coaches, my clients, people that are interested in learning about either of those things, or recently diagnosed with things, or struggling with nutrition. That's all I do. It's so much fun. I just get to work out with people and talk to them all day. It's
now
great.
You're a gardener.
And hang with my dog. And I'm a gardener now, brand new. We'll see.
So have you had dogs for a long time?
Yes, my whole life. Always.
So it's always had dogs. So you're used to raising little rugrats and dealing with them and all that stuff. Okay. All right. So go back now. I want you to tell me a little bit about back when you were diagnosed, how old you were, and kind of what was going on in your world then. Where was your head at? And tell me about Sarah then.
Oh my goodness, I'm gonna completely rock your world, actually. So Sarah back then, I'd actually just moved back. So here, let me kind of circle back a bit. I am Canadian, but I was raised in the Bahamas with my dad and my family, because my dad worked for the Royal Bank of Canada. And then I went to boarding school in Quebec. And then I went to university in Nova Scotia, and I ended up moving to the Yukon, right next to Alaska. So I was living up there for a while. And unfortunately, during that time, I was actually in quite nasty relationships, very like verbally abusive relationships, not healthy relationships. I struggled with eating disorders. I didn't know what was wrong with my body. I would get sick all the time, which I now know are flares. But what I didn't know at the time was I thought that maybe I was drinking too much, or maybe I was partying too hard, or maybe I was, just sensitive to spicy foods or anything. I had no idea what was going on, but I would go up in weight and down in weight. And everyone would always say, "You're so small, you're so tiny, you're so fit." And I always loved fitness and had been a personal trainer on and off, and worked in child abuse and treatment services in the Yukon. And then I ended up having a really bad drinking and driving accident with an ex-boyfriend in the Yukon, where I ended up being left on the side of the road and had been dragged by a truck 40 feet and was left there. So my girlfriend, yes, you're like, I didn't see this coming. So my girlfriend actually at the time, yeah, she picked me up, took me to the hospital, and then I have scars like all down my right side of my arm. So my arm had actually gotten stuck in the side of the truck, and he had taken off, and I was 24 years old. 24 years old. And then was found there, brought to the hospital, and I'd been drinking that night, unfortunately. And I was so confused why my boyfriend at the time had left me there and didn't want to be with me, and I wasn't sure what was going on, but he had a drinking problem. We all have drinking problems, to be perfectly honest, and we were young and just crazy. And then I ended up having to lose my job because I was a waitress full time then, because I couldn't actually work. My arm was in a sling, and I was all cut up in my arm and my hip bone. I have scars all down like the left side of my body from it. And my friend actually called my mom, and she had to come drive. She had to fly from Ontario to drive me back to Ontario. So I went into a manic depression. I had post-traumatic stress, PTSD, really, really bad, post-traumatic stress disorder. And I went to go see a behavioral psychologist in Ontario. And that's when my life really started to flip. And I started realizing that I needed to take care of myself, because I kept going from toxic relationship to toxic relationship. And then after doing several sessions of therapy and learning about my eating disorders and my fear of food, and I would tell her that I would eat something and I would get sick because I was scared to eat it because I would get sick. And also I had body dysmorphia issues and all of that. So after seeing the most amazing therapist in the entire world, Jill Firestone in Ottawa, I swear, like, she completely changed my entire life. I met my boyfriend at the time, about probably 4 or 5 months after my accident happened. And I was like, I'm not dating anybody. Nothing's happening. I need to work on me. It's fine. He was moving out west. Never thought I was going to pursue anything with him. I thought he was gorgeous. Met him on the app Tinder. Hilarious. We always say that we're like a couple success stories from there, but not a lot. No intentions of actually seeing each other. And then we dated each other for, I think we were together for 4 months after that. And then I got really sick. So we went to dinner with my girlfriend oh my goodness, her birthday was literally on Monday. So we went to her, it would have been 7 years ago now, and went to dinner for her birthday. We went to a raw bar where there was scallops and oysters and mussels and raw fish and sushi and all this stuff. And I had 1 glass of white wine, and then we drove home. And so my boyfriend at the time, brand new boyfriend, okay? And I remember going to his house and putting all the taps on every time I'd go to the bathroom, right? Because I'm always in and out of the bathroom, and I didn't want him to know and what was going on with me, and that I was sick. And I just told him I had a bunch of sensitivities and was trying to work it out. And then he was upstairs, and I felt myself getting sick. I'm like, I'm going to go downstairs. My parents had a pretty big house, and I was living in my parents' place at the time. And I went downstairs and throwing up like crazy. I couldn't get off the toilet. I was bleeding everywhere. It was not a good situation. And then I ended up having to crawl up the stairs and like pull on the blankets to try and get him. Oh, am I frozen?
No, you're good.
And I had to pull on the blankets. Good. Okay. I had to pull the blankets to wake him up and be like, I need help. I don't know what is wrong with me, but I'm dying. And then he's like, did you drink too much? I'm like, no. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I'm so sick. I ended up sleeping it off. We didn't end up rushing me to the hospital. He's like, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Like, you probably just aren't feeling well. You're okay. And I got sick a couple more times. And then I passed out and I was out for almost like 24 hours. I was out, dead, exhausted. And that's when I started to really, really, really get sick, like really badly. I lost 30 pounds within a month, constantly bleeding. I couldn't drink water without having to go to the bathroom. As soon as something hit my esophagus, I was in the bathroom. I couldn't keep anything down. So about 25, 30 pounds or so is what I lost.
Did you throw up much?
I did quite a bit. Yeah. Quite a bit. Do you get that still, or did you have that bad?
Yeah. So, and some people throw up and some people don't. Sometimes it goes straight this way. That's why I was kind of wondering. But when I get really sick, it just sends it both directions. And
that's what happened.
And it's so exhausting physically, but emotionally for me, at least before my ostomy, and dealing with that, because I just hated, it's one thing to have to sit on a toilet for 30 minutes, and just not fall asleep and letting your legs fall asleep and leaning on the wall or the stall door or whatever. But it's a whole other story when you got to get a trash can and it's coming out both ends, but it's painful. It's not like it's something simple where it just drains out of you. It is exhaustingly painful. So I was just curious if you dealt with that too.
Yeah, I did. That was my first time with that. So, and then that's when, after that, it was multiple doctor visits, and my family was still living in the Bahamas at the time. So they had built a home in Canada that I was living in. They didn't build it for me. That would have been very nice, but they did not. It was a retirement home, and they were living in Bahamas, and my doctor would not admit me. He would not admit me. I went all the time, said something is wrong, and they kept telling me, you have IBS. You're a personal trainer. You're super fit. You're healthy. Go home. And I'm like, I am dying. I'm bleeding uncontrollably. I can't drink water without getting sick. And then a nurse prescribed me Imodium and said, you might have diverticulitis. I said, okay, I've got something coming on now. Because I was bleeding so much, and then when I was given the Imodium, I ended up getting a blood blockage in my back, in my bowel. So I couldn't move. I couldn't bend over. I couldn't go to the bathroom. And I was losing color in my face. I lost weight way faster. And then that escalated me having to go to the doctor and have an enema and have all these things done. And then that nurse, I remember the nurse getting yelled at outside of my doctor's office because they were like, why would you give her this, especially if you think that she had diverticulitis? Why would you ever give her this? So long story short, they would not send me to see a specialist. They would not send me to go to get a colonoscopy or anything. My mom had a nervous breakdown, and she called every single gastroenterologist in Ottawa that she could. And she just got on the phone and she cried and said, I need to speak to someone. I need someone to take my daughter. They will not see her. They keep telling her she's healthy. There's something wrong. Like, she would not be this sick. She's lost so much muscle. She has no energy. I was still trying to work at this point too. I was still trying to waitress. I was still trying to teach personal training classes. I was working 8 part-time jobs actually at that time because I didn't speak French. And I'm living in Ottawa and I couldn't get a job without speaking French. So it was really tough. And coming from the Yukon, where I worked in child abuse and treatment services, they needed me to have a sociology degree to work in the same place. And so it's so different everywhere you live, right? Anyways, so my mom got through to this beautiful lady that was working reception, and this lady was like in tears listening to my mom crying. She's like, I'm in the country. I can't be there to take care of my daughter. Can someone just see her? Ended up talking to my doctor at the time, and said to her, can you talk to this woman and call her doctor and ask them to give her a referral? And that's what happened. So my mom made it happen, which was unbelievable. So the gastroenterologist called my doctor's office and said, send a referral for this client for this patient so I can see her. And then they had me in for a colonoscopy within a week and a half. And then I was diagnosed with like severe Crohn's disease. But I also had a partial. So they didn't fully sedate me, and I don't do well with anesthesia. I have to have like the max amount of anesthesia. I wake up through everything. And I could, like, I woke up through getting my tonsils taken out. That was terrifying. That I was very young when that happened. That was pretty scary. But I felt everything the entire time, and I was very uncomfortable. And I was like swinging punches, trying to hit people when they were trying to scope me. And they said we didn't get to see everything, but we could tell small and large intestine, severe Crohn's disease, and that was it. And then I was put on Mezavant 4 to 6 capsules a day, basically told for the rest of my life. And that was the beginning of my journey of finally being diagnosed. But I'd probably had about 5 or 6 colonoscopies before that. I was tested for lupus, celiac disease, what else? Hyperthyroidism, like everything. I was checked for so much stuff, but never Crohn's disease.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you deal with that diagnosis? Were you more relieved at this point to kind of be able to pinpoint what it was, so you kind of stomped forward, or how did you take that?
Oh my goodness. At the time, honestly, I think that my now husband was such a great support system that, and so was my mom, flew back as soon as she found out as well, that I was nervous. I was ready for answers at that point. I lived so much of my life not knowing what was from an eating disorder, when really it was a pain thing. A lot of it was pain, right? So it was a relief for me, but I also was so confused because everything I read online was so counterintuitive. Like nothing really gave me a straight answer. And everyone that I would read an article from, I'm like, I can't eat that. Why can they eat that? And I can't. And I found it was almost frustrating at the time. But it was funny because there was a gutsy walk that was coming up shortly after I'd been diagnosed. And my mom was like, we're doing it. We're going to go meet all these people that are also doing a gutsy walk. And I thought that was pretty cool. And I ended up not being able to go because I was too sick to go. but I supported and we donated. But at the very beginning, I was happy to know, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't even know what they were going to find because I'd had so much stuff tested for before, and they just went to look and it was exploratory. So I was very shocked, but I dealt with it well, but I was nervous for sure.
So you were prescribed, what was it you were prescribed?
Mezavant.
And so besides that, what other treatments and things did they throw at you out the gate?
Well, they wanted me to do Remicade, Humira, a bunch of the biologics.
How long ago was it?
How long ago was my diagnosis?
Mm-hmm.
It would have been 7 years ago.
7 years ago, okay.
7 years ago. Humira was 2 years after, I believe, but I didn't really get much of a choice when I first started, but I moved a lot. So and every time you move, you have to do another colonoscopy, which I did not understand. They would have to do a new one every time I moved. So I moved from Ontario to Saskatchewan, and Saskatchewan back to Ontario. And every time I got a new doctor, they wanted to look themselves. I was great. Don't really want to, but so yes. I was like, can we just transfer these files?
So at this time, were you closest then with Brock and your mom? Were they probably those who were there next to you this whole time that were the most impactful?
Yes, 110%, 110%. And at the time too, well, I'd say all my clients as well, they were super understanding because they wanted me to get better, because they were watching me struggle and watching me teach them and trying to help them get healthy and watching me fade away. So for that entire month, I would show up and all of a sudden I was like, my eyes were getting sunken in, like I was losing all my muscle. I think the worst part of that entire flare was the fact that I got more compliments that month about how good I looked than any other time. And it was the most defeating, disgusting feeling, because I was like, do you understand? I'm sick right now. Like, I'm not healthy. Like, I should not look like this. And then I had that feeling of like, should I look like this? Do I look better like this? And it was just it was a really terrible spot to be in. But thankfully my mom, my husband were there with me, and they were like, no, You don't look good, you look sick.
I have a little running joke that I tell people, and that's that when I look really healthy, like when you look at me and go, man, Austin, you look good, I'm usually not feeling well. When I don't look that great, meaning I usually have a little bit of weight extra on me, and I look just normal, I'm usually feeling pretty good. But when I usually feel terrible when people want to compliment how I'm looking just because I've dropped 20, 30 pounds in a month. And I'm like, dude.
It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. And that's why I love when people say to me, they're like, I'm not ready to work out yet because I don't want to lose weight. And I was like, honey, you need to work out so you can put weight on, right? Because otherwise you're going to be putting on the wrong type of weight. And I tell them all the time, like, you want to work out and eat enough to be able to add the muscle back on afterwards.
What changed? Something changed in regards to the way you began to approach everything. I mean, kind of taking the bull by the horns, figuring out what in the world these drugs are doing and not doing for you, and their side effects and their value, and kind of how they interact with your health and your diet. So what kind of was going on in your world or in your mind that led to where you're at now?
Honestly, the biggest change that happened for me was my pills were $500 a month.
Dude.
And that's pretty cheap in the Crohn's world, from my understanding, from me talking to a bunch of my patients, right? Yeah. So I was like, that's a lot of money. I'm like, that to me, that's a car payment, that's a mortgage payment with my spouse. Like, that is something that I do not want to have to pay for. And I just wanted to be in full remission. I wanted to make sure that I could get off the drugs. That's what I wanted to do. And then when my husband proposed to me, which I did not see coming because we had actually just gone through a flood, lost our home, and moved in with my parents, I was not expecting that to happen at all, was that I decided, like, I need to figure this out. I'm getting married. I want to be the happiest, healthiest person I can be in my life and get off this medication and be able to, like, I'm like, if I had that extra $500, can you imagine how much more I could do if I had an extra $500 a month? Like, the more we could go on trips, we could do all these things. I could be healthier. I could buy more expensive, better groceries. That's one of my biggest goals for my husband and I, is I want to be able to go to the grocery store and just think, I don't care how much this bill is. I'm getting all the expensive organic everything and just swipe it. Like, that's what I want to be able to do. So for me, it's a really big goal. And then when I looking at a bunch of different holistic ways, I had a naturopath actually in Ontario that I swore by, and they said, try plant-based. I'm like, that sounds virtually impossible.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to do it. My sister does it, and she's done great things with her body and gotten so much healthier, and green juices and all the things. And I was like, well, if I can start by just integrating little things once in a while and just trying by starting to boil everything and just get the nutrients into my body so I get used to digesting them, I'm like, it's got to work, because that's essentially how we use a FODMAP diet, how we use everything, right? Slowly introducing things back into our bodies and seeing how we react. I'm like, if I can do that from cooked to raw, I can probably do this.
Yeah.
And that was the approach I took. And that's when I started actually doing my new programs that I do. So I got the food list where it broke everything down so simply. So it wasn't carbs, fats, and proteins. It was vegetables, and then it was fruits, and then it was your carbohydrates and your proteins. And there's a vegan list, which made it so simple, where it breaks down your carbohydrates into grains and starches, because when you're eating more plant-based protein, it's higher carbohydrate, right? Because you're eating more vegetables, you're eating like soy products, or like veggie dogs if you're going to be eating that type of protein. But I typically eat mostly just vegetables and my superfood shakes and all that kind of stuff. So for me, making that transition was so simple, because I would go down my list, like, okay, I can't have lettuce. I can sometimes have beets, I don't know. And I would just cross off everything. And the list was actually organized from, it is organized from most nutrient dense to least nutrient dense, right? So even things like a cup of vegetable stock, for example, that counts as a vegetable serving. So for someone coming in out of a flare that's trying to take care of themselves, Like, I can't have vegetables. I'm like, but you can have vegetable stock, or you can try and have a micronized powdered green supplement, something to get the nutrients in your body. Because when you kind of take the thought of food about how it's to fuel your body, I always say to people, you wouldn't put regular gas in a Maserati, right? Because it wouldn't work, and you just wouldn't do that. So why would you do that to your body? So if I can eat on the higher nutrient dense list versus the lower, my body's going to perform better. I'm going to have more energy, but I need to stick to the foods that I know are safe. And I started making that transition. So in doing that, I was able to find foods I liked, find recipes. There's also a bunch of different apps that are out there where you can actually type in, this is the food I have at home, and it gives you recipes. Oh, wow. So if you don't know, if you're like, hey, these are my safe foods, I can put these in, then afterwards, you're able to make a meal from the things that you already have. And they'll tell you if you're missing little things here and there, but it's honestly, it made a huge difference for me. So that was my shift in nutrition and being able to change and working from cooking things down. And it did start that way. I blended a lot of stuff. I did a lot of cream soups. I did a lot of transitioning that way. My husband just got home, so my dogs might bark. Morning you. But that was basically how it went for me, and it made a massive difference.
So how was your, like, I know you still, even in this journey, so as we try these things and you're working out, trying to find your norm, there's still a health struggle in the middle of that, right? So how do you not get bogged down? Because so many people in this process get worn down by, you can still have a flare up in the middle of eating healthy and trying and doing things that are actually really good for your health and eating. And it might not even mean that what you're having is the problem. Maybe it is just the flare. So
or stress is huge.
Yeah. So how was in your life, as you're going through all of this, dealing with this? People struggle and have flare-ups and deal with their same Crohn's symptoms as they're trying to eat healthy and find out what works. And so how are you able to, and I know it's commitment, but how are you able to kind of see what was legit and what wasn't, what was kind of psychological? Because there's a lot of psychological BS where if I'm convinced something is going to mess up my stomach, it could mess up my stomach, but then I could not know it's in something I ate and it won't bother me. Right. So
absolutely.
Then it's up here. So I guess I'm wondering how, did you see that in yourself and how did you manage it?
I'd say with myself is that stress has always been a trigger, and I'm an overthinker, right? So that's where when I can write out my morning routine, where I can write out like what I want to do for the day, it kind of reminds me and keeps me focused. Whereas if I don't have structure, I'm kind of all over the place. Or if I haven't planned my meals, I'm like, okay, what am I going to eat now? And I kind of stress out, right? So I think that it's just being realistic with your body and your progress. And probably the biggest thing I get from my clients is, do you still work out when you're in a flare? And I say, if I can, I'll listen to my body. I'm like, even if I just do yoga or even if I just stretch, I'm like, your muscles need to move. And one of the first things we do when we're in a flare is lay down and say, Lord, give me a hot water pack and a Pedialyte and something. And I'm just going to lay here and just deal with myself and be in and out of the bathroom. But for me, it's, if I can tell myself that I know by me taking this action, or I know by me choosing to have my superfood shake instead of leaning to go toward just having like a Gatorade or a hydrate or something, or a salt or something to just like make me feel better, is that if I have my superfood shake and if I have a broth or I have something that is going to give me significant nutrient, it's going to make me feel better. Do I want to eat the other things? Yes. Or do I not want to eat it all? Yes. But I know that in that moment, it's like the Mel Robbins 5-second rule. That's kind of how I live my life, right? If you can count backwards from 5 and make that decision and instantly move your body, you can completely change your mindset. So you can sit there and say like, woe is me. I'm going through this flare. How am I going to get through this? Or what happens if I do this? But what happens if you don't?
Right.
That's kind of the mindset that I have with Crohn's and that I have with irritable bowel disease. What happens if you don't? And that's the same question I'll ask people is like, if you don't change today, what's going to happen? Are you going to get better or are you going to get worse? Something has to change. And that's just the bottom line.
And in doing that, you learn that, you know what, even if I do sit here and I'm tired and I lay here and I give in and I let myself, great, we need rest, okay? But if I lay here and let myself get rest, you know what happens in 5 hours after getting rest? I'm still tired and I'm still exhausted. And the thought of motivation to get up and do that thing is 5 hours gone now. Whereas if knowing now that I'm still going to be tired and feel the same after resting for 5 hours or 2 days, and I'm still going to feel exhausted, that's when I start kind of going, well, why the heck don't you get up and go for a walk? What the heck do you have to lose? I mean, if you're going to feel the same, whether you go for a walk or not, or whether you get up and you go do that or not, then do it. Because staying here is not going to help.
Mm-hmm. So, 100%. 100%.
So could you tell through the way you were changing was your sleep getting better? Could you tell, or have you always been kind of a good sleeper? Because that's one of the things that when diet is adjusted and it goes from being toxic diet to a healthy diet, that sleep and real rest for your body kind of allows it to come in and happen. Did you notice that at all in you?
I noticed a massive difference. It's funny though. Literally the other day in my story, I'm like, I can't sleep, but it's because I had a lot of stuff happening with work. But when I started eating healthier, when I was trying to just focus on me, absolutely, always. And actually, my husband and I went through a phase where we were getting up every morning at 4:30 or 4 a.m, and we'd go and work out. And that was something that was really tough. I'm not a morning person, never have been, always been a night owl through and through. Love to just sit up and just stay up and have a glass of wine and hang out. And that was my thing. Yeah. But with my husband, he gets up really early and has to go to work. So before COVID hit, we were up every morning, 4:30 in the morning. We had a little community gym that we would go to. And I found that I would get less sleep. It wasn't less. It was between 6 and 7 hours of sleep when I go to bed, get up at 4 a.m, and I had more energy for my entire day then than I did when I used to get 8-10 hours of sleep going to bed late at night. And I don't know what it is. I think it's that it's kind of like that moment when you get up and you realize everyone else is still sleeping, but you did something good for yourself and chose to get up. Yeah. It's like that feeling of accomplishment before anybody knows you're there. And I used to rush to my Instagram stories and get that timestamp and be like, it's 4 a.m. and I'm up, and you can see it because you can't lie on Instagram about your timestamp. So I always used to go for that all the time. And it was just such an empowering feeling. It's different now because he's here all the time and our little gym's not open. But I mean, it is amazing how much different your body can respond and how much better your quality of sleep is, for sure.
I've heard that when you go to sleep, for every hour you go to sleep before midnight, it counts as 2 hours of sleep. So if you go to bed at 10, you're actually getting, it's like you're going to bed at 8, because you're getting 2 more hours of sleep by choosing to go to bed earlier. And I've noticed that too. Like I transitioned from being a night owl to an early bird, and it's the same thing. And I've just realized, I mean, I have 4 kids and a dog, and the morning is where that's my sanctuary, man. That's my me time. That's where I can do anything and everything I have to do. And so, yeah. How did your husband impact your perception on life, just in general, in kind of accepting your health? I mean, you went from, as did I'm not picking on you, but you went from having a bad picker to picking a gentleman. Yeah. And a lot changed in you, but usually when that happens, he helped you transition in your thinking in a lot of ways. How did your relationship with him change or impact the way you looked at yourself and your life?
You know what I think it was? Is that we're both different. And I feel like I always tried to find someone that could outdo me in a way where it was like, I'm a loud person, I'm outgoing. I needed someone that wanted to just like go out and party and be social and do all these things and like try and ride the line with me and let's go and let's be super spontaneous. But for me, was what I needed someone that would just listen, and that would understand, and that would, help me make better choices. And like, it's probably the most disciplined person I've ever met in my entire life. Like so for a little bit of background knowledge is that when our house flooded in 2017, this was his family home, growing up. It's a beautiful small little like cottage. And when the house flooded, he spent every single day after it flooded. It was a nightmare. It flooded again in 2019 after he fixed it. But he spent every single day getting up every morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, driving an hour to work downtown, working until 3, 4 o'clock, driving an hour back to this house here. He'd work on the house from 5 p.m. till 11 p.m. at night, then drive 45 minutes back to my parents' place, eat dinner, go to bed, wake up, go back and do it again, 4 a.m. So he did that for a year and a half and just rebuilt his entire house by himself and had his friends coming. And honestly, that's when I started my business as well. And that's also when I really started making that change in my health. And when I watch him be so disciplined and watch him have that no matter what mentality of like, we do this for our family. We do this for our future family. We do this for our health and our future. And like the fact that we don't want to live to work. We want to work so that we can live and then be able to do what we want when we want to, is that I can't do that unless I'm healthy. And we wouldn't have been able to be here. We wouldn't have been able to afford it. We would have been in probably over $500,000 in debt if we had tried to just sell everything out to fix everything post flood. And he just like has that mentality of like, no matter what, we have to do this, where I feel like every other person I was in a relationship with before was like, what's the easiest way that we can do this? Yeah. It was never the hard way. And I think that when I got diagnosed with Crohn's disease, it was like, I said, this is the most embarrassing disease you can have, I'm sure. And that's how I felt. I'm like, I literally go to the bathroom all day, every day. And you have to like drive places, and I carry toilet paper in the bathroom, and you have to pull over on the side of the road in the middle of like anywhere, and I have to go, I gotta go. Like it's happened with us, right? And I feel like for him, it was just, we set our standards at the very beginning. And his first message to me, you're gonna laugh, on Tinder was, I'm not looking for a relationship. I like to drink beer. I go to school full time and work full time, and I play hockey, and I'm moving out west next year. And that was it. And I was like, okay. He put all of his cards out on the table. And then I came back, I'm like, I work 8 part-time jobs. I like to drink wine. I am allergic to pretty much every single food that is out there, because I didn't know I had Crohn's at the time, right? I was like, no eggs, no this, no that, because I was working with a naturopath. And I said that I'm not looking for a relationship. I got out of a really nasty one. And then I said, yeah, I like to drink wine, and you're probably only going to see me on a Saturday morning, because I worked so much. And it just so happened that Saturday mornings were the only mornings he had time off. And that's when I taught my fitness classes. So he actually started coming to my workout classes with me. And then that was basically it. And then on Thursday nights, I would work my my waitressing job. And then I would drive to his house, and then I'd bring him whatever was for dinner on the special that night. He would watch the Senators game and eat the food I gave him, and he'd fall asleep on me, and I'd watch the Vancouver game, and then I'd go to sleep. Those were our favorite teams at the time, and that's all the time we spent together. And then he came home one day and was like, so I'm going out west. And he's like, and I love you, and I want you to come with me. And then I just picked up everything and went. So It was pretty awesome. Yeah, it was cool. We just laid all our cards out on the table, though. And I also said, I'm very jealous. And I said, if you're going to see anybody else, I'm just not going to talk to you anymore. I'm very much like that. So we just kind of put all our cards out on the table right away.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So I know you have crappy days. Mm-hmm. So when you're a pretty outgoing, positive person, how do you handle having a couple of crappy days in a row, and also still kind of coaching and managing and helping people? How do you personally, mentally handle 3, 4, 5 days, sometimes a lot of times longer, but I mean, just really a couple of bad days in a row? How do you handle it?
I share it. I share everything on social media. I lean in when things get hard. I've had my Crohn's disease attack my eyes. So I'm not sure if you've seen that before, but it was terrifying. And it happened to me last Christmas, and it happened again this year. So for me, it's like, oh my goodness. For me, it's really just leaning in, and I have to share everything. So I can be an oversharer for sure, but I feel like because I consistently show up and share my story unapologetically as myself every single day, that I would never not show up. If I don't show up on social media, someone's like, hey, you dead? Or you like, what's going on? Right? Like, I will tell people like, hey guys, I am not well today. I'm at home. I'm literally going to sit down and just do my own thing and work today in silence, or get on a couple one-on-one calls. But I think for me, because I do run a health and wellness company, and I do help other people find their power, I can't not show up for them. I can be sick and completely out of commission, but even if I show up and I'm laying in bed and I'm like, guys, I don't know what's going on, but it's not good. I had a really bad spasm a couple weeks ago where I was completely fine, and then the next second I was on the floor. And I literally put my phone on, and I struggled to put it on. And I was like, guys, my husband is passed out on the couch and he will not wake up, but I'm having a really bad spasm. I'm sure I'll be fine, but this is what Crohn's disease can look like. I was fine 2 seconds ago, and now I'm trying to run a bath and pull my body into this bathtub. And I will just show up and share it. And I feel like once I've almost shared it to the world, I feel like I can almost own it and get better. Does that make sense? I feel like it's liberating for me, because I have to show people I struggle. And it's kind of weird. People on social media kind of like to know that. They kind of thrive off that, your struggle, your pain. And it's because it normalizes you. And I feel like it almost helped me find comfort. And I love meeting other people that love sharing their story about irritable disease because of that, because it is empowering, right? It is empowering to show people the ups and downs, and not just that it's perfect all the time.
Yeah. There's your personality, and my personality too is to share and to be social, and I thrive in that arena, as do you. And I meet a lot of people, I'm sure just like you do, that just aren't real social. And it's incredibly important, even if you aren't. Like I tell people, then let me be the person you holler at. Then just shoot me an email, tell me. Okay, you don't have to tell 100 people, but you need to get that out, because if it stays in, it really seems to manifest itself in other physical ways or emotional ways when you just keep burying, and you just feel alone over and over, and it drags you.
Absolutely.
So do you have any 1 or 2 things on a daily basis that just really bring you satisfaction? Just any of the, maybe it's your run, maybe, getting on and posting something on social media, but what brings you the most satisfaction on a daily basis?
I love taking my pre-workout and doing a dance video every single day. All my girls and I do it on my team, my coaches. Some of my clients do it. People sometimes think they have to post crazy videos and do things like that on social media to work with me. Never do. They never do. I just love putting on a good song and taking my pre-workout and dancing around, dancing with my dogs. I love it because it releases my endorphins. I love music. I connect to music so well. I like to listen to personal development every single day. If it's Tony Robbins or Mel Robbins, or I love Jenna Kutcher as well. She's absolutely phenomenal. Tons of different people every day. I listen to at least 30 to an hour of personal development. Gary V as well. He is a no BS kind of guy. So I love him, when he's just very much like, go and do something. He's like, if you're sitting there and you're doing nothing and you want something, like, go. And I'd say also, speaking to my team of coaches, I have a lot of women come from all over the world with different struggles and different whys. And for me, it's every single day I make it like my mission to get a win from somebody.
Yeah.
If it's I paid off my debt, or, I feel accomplished from my workout, or anything. Every Thursday we call it Praise Your Peeps, where we have a thing in our group where everyone just compliments each other. So it's like filling my cup every single day with helping other people or helping somebody get a win. That's how I know I did something really good, if that makes sense. It's just, I feel like I'm a giver almost to a fault, I guess. That's the way most of my clients and coaches would say, is like, I'm a mama bear, and I'm always just like, let me help you, instead of being like, let me just do everything for myself. Yeah. But it's what truly brings me joy, is helping other people reach their goals and just genuinely feel good, and or just laugh. Just laugh every single day.
That might segue right into my next question. It might be the answer to it, but what would you tell a younger version of yourself? Go back 15 years. maybe earlier than that, but what would you tell the stubborn earlier version of yourself, or someone right now who's where you were, to kind of help them get over that hump of BS, of anxiety and depression, of the poor me?
I wrote this post on my social media, and every time I repost it every once in a while, about every 3 months or so, and I always add something new to it. It's interesting how you grow through your season of life. And for me, honestly, it's a pain point for me because I was awful to myself. So how can I summarize this, I guess, without trying to bawl my eyes out on I would definitely say, like, you can eat that, number one, like, was so important, because I was so scared of food in so many different ways. Is you can eat that, and you don't have to stay in that toxic relationship. You are beautiful no matter what you look like or how your clothes fits. You don't have to be friends with everybody. I feel like that's something that I was always so scared to lose friends because I wanted to do better in my life.
Yeah.
It's almost like, people are really scared to be successful, not because of other people think, but because they actually might do it. Right. Like, what if I actually make it? I'm scared that I might actually get successful and I'm going to love it. And is anyone going to come with me? Probably not. Because the people that I had in my life then, I have a couple key people that stuck around, but those are the people that pulled me out of the mess I was in.
Right.
Those are the people that called my mom and said, Sarah almost died on the side of the road and her life needs to change. Right? Because I would have kept living there and kept being sick, and I never would have gone to the doctor. I never would have gotten help. I never would have met my husband, who's completely changed my life. I never would have become an entrepreneur. I'd never be sitting here with you right now. It's just amazing how your life can change. And so for me, it's just like, I had those feelings. I had those feelings of like, I'm destined for more. Yeah. And I held myself back from it.
Yeah.
And if anyone ever has that inkling, they should just go for it. And just, who cares if someone's going with you? It's just full steam ahead. You're coming with me or you're not. And just getting over that fear of judgment, because at the end of the day, you really are a summary of the people you surround yourself with. Yeah. If you're surrounding yourself with people that are negative and partying and spending all their money and not planning for the future and, doing things like that, like, you're going to be like that. You might have that 1% where, you're trying to get better. That's great. But they're going to keep pulling you back. And so what I say to my girls now, because a lot of girls that start with me, either on fitness or as coaches, or even like new friends that I meet that aren't even working with me, is that if someone struggles, because I'm a person people open up to, I've always been that person. I attract those people. My mom says I'm like a magnet. Yeah. But I say to someone, I'm like, if you can get 1% better every single day, imagine 100 days from now, how much better you'd be. 100% better than where you are right now. Right? And it's so true. If you just get a little bit better every single day, and if you stop comparing yourself to who you were forever ago and just compare yourself to who you are right now in this moment, what's one thing you can do better for yourself? Maybe it's just having a tea instead of a beer. Cool. Literally, that's a massive difference, a huge difference. Maybe it's, choosing to have a salad and half the fries instead of the full thing of fries. Like, don't just change everything. And don't ever cut out fries, because they're awesome. Like, right? So it's just little tiny changes. It doesn't have to be drop everything cold turkey and just change, because that's when you're going to fail. It has to be little tiny movements. And it's the same thing with us, right? We can't just go from, we get diagnosed and all of a sudden we're like, everything has to change. Yeah. But really, you can't do that, because your body gets shocked. And then it doesn't know how to react to anything. And then you're even more sick, because you're trying to just figure out where your nutrients and everything's coming from, right? So I think it's just consistent, constant change, and just loving yourself through the process is what I'd have to tell myself and tell anybody, really.
So my very next question was, what one thing? So we're talking about one little thing, but as a general universal suggestion, what's one thing that people can just start doing today, that if they just keep doing it, it'll make a dramatic difference? Something small that you have found that really helps you, that could start a path of progress.
I think just putting it out into the world, just telling someone every single day a goal you want to achieve. Yeah. And that, like, if you can tell someone, like, I really want to do this, like, what do you think about that? And if it brings you joy, and that person around you judges you for it, that person's not your human. Wow. And I think that that's like the biggest thing I can tell people, because I used to do that. Yeah. And I used to say to people, you know, I want to work out, or I want to go for a run. And people are like, oh my gosh, why? Or, you know, I want to eat healthy. Why? Or I want to do something. Why? Right? And if someone doesn't support you for doing something that genuinely is going to better you, or that's going to make you have fun, and in the same breath, if you want to have a glass of wine and you have people that are judging you for having a glass of wine, also not your people, right? Like, it's not always in just making a healthy decision, but it's that in doing things that genuinely make you happy, surround yourself with those people and just put out into the world what you want to do and set a goal. So if you want to start your own business, just talk about it. Start manifesting that. Start sharing those goals. Or, you know, I want to start working out, and just talk about it. Just put it out there into the world, because the more you talk about it, the more you're going to attract it. And the more you find other people that support you in that goal, you're going to love that person. They'll become your best friend, right? They're going to want to work with you all the time. If it's like as a friendship, or in a business relationship, or a future endeavor, or something fun that's happening, you're going to be included. And it's just surrounding yourself with those positive people, because that's what's going to keep moving you in the right direction.
Exactly. And I'm going to add to that something that you said in our conversation today. It's a game changer for anybody who isn't doing it. Even and don't do 10. Okay, Sarah, you're going nutso on your daily list of 10. Just start with one thing, 2 things that you're thankful for right when you wake up, and start doing that every day. And that'll start changing the way your mind is thinking about what you're doing and how you're going through life. Because it's not, how's the world using me, or how am I using the world? It's a totally different view of life. And it's a game changer for everybody that tries it. So that's awesome.
It is 100%. Even if someone comes to me with a problem, and it's like, I always tell people, try to come to me with your solution, not your problem, right? And I will help you work towards your solution, right? Like, I've tried this. This is where I want to go. This didn't work. Can you help me? Great. I know that you tried something. Let's tweak that, right? Or in the same breath, if someone just comes and says, this isn't working, and this isn't working, this isn't working, I'm like, well, because that's all you're thinking about. I'm like, tell me 2 things or 3 things you're grateful for right now. What has your life given you recently? Why are you happy? What makes you want to even talk to me right now? What do I do for you, right? Will you help me work through things and make me laugh? And I love our community. Cool. How do you feel now? That's right? Like, way better. So it's just like changing that mindset so you can actually think positively.
I mean, I know you've run into them, and I have too, and I've been there. I meet people very regularly who they're so bogged down by the negativity, they can't see anything positive. And you realize it through the conversation, when you're having an in-depth conversation, that it's just constant negativity. And I've recognized so many times I just have to say, okay, let's back up. We need to write 5 things down that we're thankful for, that make you happy, that you're proud of. So
exactly.
That's a great idea. So thank you very much for coming on to the show. I really appreciate it. Tell the listeners how they can find you and where they can find you if they want to reach out.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I enjoyed this, and I am so flattered that I got to be on here, but you guys can find me. I'm sarahzielinski.fit on Instagram. So that's SarahZielinski.fit, F-I-T. And also on my website is sarahzielinskifitness.com. There you go. So that's what
that'll be in the comments. So just go down and click. And thank you so much. Subscribe to the Ostomy Guy podcast. Like us on Facebook and Instagram and all those places. Thank you so much. Please, everybody, share your story. This is how we all get liberated from that broken, dark place that we call our head. And I always say, your head is like a bad neighborhood. You never go through it alone. So thank you, Sarah, for sharing and letting us in there. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Super cool. Thank you. Have a good day.
Awesome.